Let me introduce myself. I'm Rick James, and I've been writing and researching West Coast maritime history. Oh gosh, from the late 1980s. Yeah, um, as far as my book, it's a good overview of rum running, but I must say that I do owe a lot to the gentleman I came across after getting the Harbor and Shipping magazines with Hugh Garling, who was sailed aboard the mothership Malahat, writing it all down, and a couple more gentlemen set to writing down their experiences too, and Fraser Miles, Slow Boat on Rummerow, Johnny, he was out there on the Rao too, which is an old fish packer, which is still working the waters out here. But he was on her. She was launched in the 20s, and it was a packer, and they were using it to delivering up booze to motherships and anybody came to pick up an order. But she's here, and she ties up in Comox Harbor here, and she's still out there. That was Fraser Miles was on there as a radio operator. What was another one was really great. Uh, Johnny Schnarr's niece, and I'm not sure, a gentleman did a biography and did major interviews of Johnny Schnarr and wrote a book on, on his uh, activities as jumping the line, illegal trade, where Johnny Schnarr operated out of Victoria, and he did the illegal trade to make a better dollar, far better dollar, building a fast craft, the purpose-built hulls he'd had built by a local Japanese boat builder down in Victoria, near Victoria Harbor, and then then he would paint it all. They would paint them black, and then they would load down, and then this fast hull would race across the line in the dark at night, especially if it was cloudy. If it was bad weather, it was perfect for cover, and then run up their liquor orders. But there was a biography written up on him in the 1980s or 90s. So there's a couple of people that wrote up different accounts that just helped out to write my book. So as far as my recent book that's done rather well on West Coast rum running, what stimulated me? Well, what it was, back in the 1990s, I was able to connect with many old-time mariners, and one of the characters, actually he was a diver, was Fred Rogers, that lived here in Qualicum Beach, and Fred Rogers had gone all over the coast here and dove on and recorded and mapped all the wrecks up and down the coast, and I really hit it off with him in the 1990s, and then one day he gave me a whole collection of Harbor and Shipping magazine, many of them made up from the late 1980s, and a Hugh Garling, who actually crewed on the mothership Malahat, had written a number of articles, series of articles in the late 1980s in Harbor and Shipping, going into the background rum running during the Volstead Act throughout the United States of America from 1920 to 1933. And it was so insightful, looking at how it was all run and managed here on the coast and how majorly involved we were up here in the BC coast through rum running years when it was illegal across all through the United States. Passage of the Volstead Act in Washington, D.C., 1920. Meanwhile, here in British Columbia, they were trying prohibition, instituted it in 1916, and of course then all the veterans returned from the Western Front, the First World War, and they go, Jesus, where do I get a beer? and it just so happened the same year as the Volstead Act, they had a provincial election in British Columbia, and there was also a referendum or plebiscite there saying, what do you think with prohibition? Should we stick with it or government-controlled liquor? Well, you know where that went. So it's saying, in some sense, it became legal in BC, while it just across the line there in Washington State, for instance, or all through all through the United States, it was illegal. So it was a golden opportunity to make a good dollar delivering up liquor cargoes to American boats, yeah, or running down the coast of these huge Cape or old wood sailing lumber schooners and old freighters, load them down with, like 50,000 cases of liquor, and then go sit out in international waters off the Columbia River Bar, or what was really worked out well was sitting off the Farallon Islands off Golden Gate in San Francisco there, sitting out in international waters, and guys would come running out in boats. Americans would run out to pick up their liquor order from a floating liquor warehouse, these motherships, and first of all, when an order had to be put in up in the Consolidated Exporters Corporation's office in Vancouver, Victoria, for the liquor order, and then the dollar bill was torn in half. One half was kept by the skipper of the mothership. The other half was given to the American to pass on to whoever was supposed to pick up the liquor order. And then when he met up with the mothership out in international waters, they matched the bills to make sure he was the right guy. As far as, as time went on, I didn't really picked up on any new insights into rum running, but other than I was just what I did hear stories about different things, it just validated what I say in my book, about how well organized it was and peaceful and so beneficial. It revived the economy in Burrard Inlet, Vancouver. Kept the boat builders going and the supplying the boats and employment, as it did for Victoria's Inner Harbor. They ran in there. It was, but it just, a lot of what I did in the book, if I hear something that just validates a lot of what I've came across. And hearing different personal stories sometimes turn up every once in a while. Yeah. Yeah, no, there was people when I was researching this book, and they're trying to connect it, because Al Capone had such, he was so much connected to the illegal delivering up, bootlegging, delivering up liquor and whatnot in the States. And it was suggested by a couple of people I talked to that he even had boats out here. No, he didn't have boats out here. It was all run above board, and it was very most fortunate. A gentleman that happened to be a young police lieutenant, the Seattle police force got involved. He got kicked out of the force, of course, but he was a very gentlemanly guy. He was very organized, very intelligent, and like the people who are running the show up here in BC, he was trying to avoid any violence and keep it as a, well-run, economically viable trade. It was an enterprise. Try to keep it a peaceful enterprise, and so we were fortunate out here on the West Coast that the gentleman running Consolidated Exporters in later life, Captain Charles Hudson, was a very gentlemanly guy, and then Roy Olstum, who was taking care of bootlegging and all around Seattle and managing the delivering up of rum running liquor. He was very organized and tried to have everybody avoid violence at all costs and keep it above board. Yeah, and that. Actually, I'm on to my next book right now. So I'm not really looking into rum running as such anymore, but odd things do come in because my name and book is out there, and I do get tales of people connecting, and it's been really rewarding that the Vancouver Maritime Museum is setting up an exhibit on rum running. It's already set up and running right now, but when they went in, and my book on West Coast rum running has done really well. It's been rather flattering. I won 3 major awards That was I was really surprised I did so well with the book. One was I was shortlisted to start with by the University of British Columbia Library and Pacific Book World News Society for the annual Basil Stewart Stubbs Prize for Outstanding Scholarly Book on British Columbia, and then the next one, and this is an academic group of serious maritime writers and researchers, a more academic style, is Canadian Nautical Research Society, of which I'm a member. And I won the Keith Matthews Award for books deserving special recognition, and that was great. But it was really surprising. I won an award down in the United States of America. I won a gold medal in the history category for Independent Publishers Book Awards in the United States. Yeah, I got an award down there. Yeah, and I might just add too that the book has been out. My book on rum running has been out there, like 3 years now, and it sometimes can be hard to find in the bookstore. You might have to order it, but it's just as easy to go on Amazon and order it.